Hi, I'm Chuck Vollmer. I'm the art director.
And I'm Joe Spadifer, the other concept artist here at Big Idea.
We're going to be looking at artwork that we put together for Moe and the Big Exit. This first piece we're looking at here was put together in the early stages when we first got the script. We would sit down and read the script and discuss the different locations with the director and writers and try to figure out what we wanted the show to look like. So we basically just sit down and we have some fun and we do different kinds of drawings and paintings that we feel best show what this show could possibly look like. In this particular painting, we were trying to convey the gag that the Peas and the other characters in the film are actually making the Grand Canyon.
This was one of the probably most interesting images that was talked about in the script. Of course, everybody who knows the Exodus story knows about the burning bush, and we had a real fun time designing, and this was the first idea that we come up with for what the burning bush would be, which was a burning tumbleweed. The final design looks similar, but it was refined a lot more by our buddies Rob and Tom. And this was also the first attempt at drawing what the buffalo was going to look like. And some of the ideas really did stay from the beginning. I mean, the costumes of Larry has influenced the final design of the costume. The color palette is similar. So obviously this is a Western. And in the beginning, when we really didn't know exactly what we were going to do with it, we just thought of a lot of iconic Western images. And of course, the showdown in the middle of a street seemed like a fun thing to do. And I did it with this scene's supposed to be like when Moe is using the staff that turns into a snake to go after Wyatt. And so for us, it was just an opportunity to explore what we knew about the West and iconic images about the West.
This image was done to try to figure out how we were going to get the parting of the Red Sea image in the show. And how do you do that when you're out west in the desert? So the idea was brought up of having them cross the Death Valley, and the idea that you have this hot, blazing desert, and how do you get across this desert? And so we came up with the idea that the cloud would come and it would snow and give them basically a path of snow to cross the hot, searing valley. And as the bad guys chase after them, the cloud would disappear and the snow would melt and they would be stuck out in the middle of this hot desert. These are the model sheets for Moe. And the first one is of Moe as the deputy that we see him start the show out as. And he's a little darker outfit, kind of the classic cowboy, in a dark hat, kind of mysterious and rough and tumble. And then as he goes into exile, we tried to make him look a little shabbier and not quite so polished and everything. The Lone Stranger model sheet as well, we were able to parody him with the Lone Ranger. Once he takes on this costume, we have him put on the mask and the red neckerchief and the big white hat and really dress him up to feel the part. Zippy is supposed to be Moe's faithful steed. Zippy was created by our artists Rob Corley and Tom Bancroft. It was a bit of a challenge to create a character for the show that actually had limbs and make it fit in the veggie world.
We promise you we can draw limbs, though. And this character here proves it. Look, he's got arms. A veggie character with arms. Only this was kind of a challenging character because the tumbleweed is representative of God, and we don't normally do that in Veggietales. This character is primarily talks with voiceover of the narrator and mimes a lot with his hands. which, makes a burning bush a little less scary.
The color keys here are done to help us see the show throughout the different stages in color and how the color will affect the mood of certain parts of the film. Is it a sad part? Is it a happy part of the film? Do we want to keep it light and colorful? If maybe the characters are in a more difficult point in the film and they're maybe sad or frustrated, we might make the colors darker or cooler depending on the mood. It's a nice way to kind of complement the story by making the colors go along with the story. So we put this all together just as a kind of a blueprint for the show.
Now, once Chuck has done his color keys, I can have the opportunity of taking those color keys and turning them into flats in the background. And one of the ideas for the flats for the background in the show, like I said earlier, was to keep it simpler. We tried for simple, iconic shapes like, some older cartoons that we'd reference. And, what we tried to do is just keep them just almost like poster-like so they read really quick. We also tried to push the caricature of the landscape a little bit. We tried to make it look a little bit more cartoony than maybe some of our previous shows had. But still, at the same time, we keep some very realistic lighting to these pretty cartoony shapes. So it brings a sense of caricature to the world, but also it feels believable because it's lit like a real landscape would be lit.
This is a landscape that we use to put behind the set. It's kind of like a play where you would go and you have the stage where your characters act, and then you have a backdrop behind it. By doing this, we don't have to build as much in the sets, and we can spend a little bit more time on the sets and make them look nicer without having to build mountain ranges and forests and everything. We can build a few trees and throw in a few boulders and things like that, and then have this set behind that. And it makes the world feel a lot bigger and a lot more expansive, yet it makes it easier for us to focus in on the details of the set and not have to build quite so much. The night one, again, because these aren't three-dimensional sets that we can relight, if we have a change of day, time of day, we have to paint a new painting. And that's the only difference between doing a 2D. We have to pretty much repaint them and do them again. Whereas if you have a set and you go from night to day, it's just a matter of putting in different lights. It's, again, very much like a stage show where you would just turn down the lights and throw on some blue lights and things to get the effect that you need. We pretty much have to start from scratch when we redo the backdrops.
Honestly, I have to say that these two paintings here of the deserts were some of my, some of the two paintings that I enjoyed most, and probably all my time working here at Big Idea. It's, I started right off the Chuck's keys, which really set a great tone. But then, once I got working on it, the more I tried to simplify the drawing that was underneath them and make them really stylized and really cartoony. A lot of times our backgrounds tend to lean a little bit more towards realism. And like I said before, I'm really trying to push a cartoon landscape for this particular show. I think that comes across. It's a little bit, makes it a little bit different than Little Joe, but not, I don't believe, in a different world entirely.
To give things, I think, a more cartoony look, you tend to exaggerate the reality of the shape or how things in nature normally are. You take that and you exaggerate. It's kind of like a caricature of someone. You just take what's there and you kind of play around with it, and you play with the sizes and the relationship of the sizes to each other. And Joe did a really nice job of taking a lot of the tops of the mesas and making them larger, and actually putting lean on some of the mesas where they lean a lot more than what they would in reality. And there's a couple of the mesas where the tops of them are huge, and there's just no way the column supporting those boulders at the top could do that. They would be crushed. But yet, it's believable. It looks like a lot of fun.
Now, the original idea was that this show would follow, like in the Bible, the story of Moses happens shortly after the story of Joseph. So we're trying to follow up the story of Bad Little Joe with Moe and the Big Exit. And one of the things that we wanted to do, though, is act like some time had passed since Ballad of Little Joe. So one of the things we did was we just expanded the scale of the town a little bit, added the mayor's office that was in the center of town, we've discovered it was really tricky making the mayor's office look like a clock tower instead of looking like a church, because we wanted this visual of like, this is where the mayor gets elected, I'm sure there's a church in another part of the town, though. Yeah, and speaking of the mayor's office, Tom Bancroft actually did this little drawing right here. It's the interior of the mayor's office, and actually for the show, I believe we took some of those plates down and added a window back there to get some nice dramatic lighting in there.
Aaron is taking on the role of Tonto, basically, and so we took a look at images of Tonto and the characters from the TV series, and tried to come up with a costume that resembled that quite a bit, but yet worked on Archibald. It was a lot of fun putting him in buckskin. But Sally is Midianite as well, and we tried to put her in a kind of a cute Indian costume. And
okay, the idea for the mayor was to make this menacing-looking character, as Nezer often is in our films.
Poor guy.
And I know. And, but basically we wanted all the bad guy characters had this dark-colored theme to them. And, I think we tried a bunch of different colors on him. We tried blue, we tried red, we tried, in between is purple. And that's what we went with. And we basically wanted to add these big mutton chops on the side that looks like it's kind of graying out a little bit. But, of course, in order to make a bad guy look like a bad guy in the Old West, you got to have the curly mustache. It's a must.
That's a good point. The bad guys in the film we made a conscious choice of making them kind of the classic cowboy as the guys in black. And you'll notice that Moe, when he starts out as a deputy, is in darker costume. And then as he becomes the Lone Stranger, he dons the lighter white cowboy hat and lighter outfit. And again, taking on kind of the classic, good guy in the white hat, so to speak. So that was a conscious effort with Joe and I to kind of go with the classic cowboy look of the bad guy wears black, the good guy wears white.
And it's kind of like when he's in that middle stage of not knowing what to decide, whether or not he's going to be a good guy or a bad guy, or whether he is a good guy or a bad guy because he knocked Bill over the canyon. He's in these kind of browns, which is more of like your neutral color in between. Wyatt. Well, obviously, when you're going to design a character in a Western named Wyatt, you think of Wyatt Earp. So I tried to draw Lunt as Wyatt Earp. That was my goal here. I think I succeeded.
The Prairie Dog is a real fun character. It's always fun to get to do something a little bit different. And he's a lot of fun in the film, and you'll probably see a lot of him in the future. The singers. I had a lot of fun doing the singers. They're kind of narrating the story, singing in a very classic kind of, singing cowboy role. And as I did the research of some of the classic singing cowboys, their costumes are about as elaborate as you can get, and colorful, and they've got the little silver tips to the collars and huge belt buckles of all designs imaginable.
It kind of reminds me a lot of the stuff that you'd see at the Grand Ole Opry down here in Tennessee.
Yeah.
That kind of showmanship that you would see. And I gotta say, our voice for the lead singer, Babe, what a talented voice. I
Yeah.
mean, this guy, in my opinion, he made the show.
I think these guys look really good in the show. It's a lot of fun. It's such a kind of classic setting as well, around a fire at night, and silhouetted cactuses in the background. It was just a lot of fun. Well, thanks for checking out this section of the DVD. I hope you found this interesting and as much fun as we did.
You know, we got another film coming out for you probably next year, and hope you come and visit us then too.